understanding the unspoken is more powerful than speaking well. This is what my grandfather taught me when I was 10 years old. And to be totally honest with you guys, at 10 years old, I did not care about the unspoken. All I cared about was my friends, my drawings, my all-time favorite show, which was SpongeBob, of course, and most importantly, I cared about making sure my little sister did not get into my stuff. She wasn't happy about that one. So like most 10 years old, I believed that being smart was very easy. I thought that being smart meant raising my hands first in class, finishing my worksheet before everyone else. It basically meant being that kid, the teacher's favorite. So when my grandfather came to me with this deep, mysterious talk about understanding people but without the words, I remember thinking, cool, Grandpa, but how is this supposed to help me survive tomorrow's spelling test? Years later, when I think back on our conversation, I actually realized that he wasn't talking about school. He was actually onto something much bigger. I grew up between two cultures. I was born in France to a French father and a Chinese mother. At the age of 3, we moved to China for 7 years. My childhood was a mix of croissant for breakfast and dumplings for dinners. It was so delicious, but it was also really complicated and confusing. I felt invisible most of my childhood. I never felt fit in. In France, I've been seen as the Chinese girl, and in China, I was seen as the French girl. It was like stepping into both worlds, almost in one, but never fully in either. But I realized that there was one skill that helped people notice me. Not for my face, not for my passport, but for who I truly was. And that is my quiet ability to read the room. That soon became my bridge between my two cultures. But you might ask yourself, what is reading the room? What is she talking about? Well, reading the room isn't some magic trick. It's not some mind reading skill or some psychology buzzword. It's simply empathy in action. It's noticing what people need before they have to say out loud. Scientists have called this emotional intelligence, and research shows that it is more important for success than IQ is. In fact, 90% of top leaders around the world score high in emotional intelligence, not IQ, but emotional intelligence. There's this Chinese saying that captures this perfectly, and that is 察言观摄. 4 characters, but one simple lesson. 察 means to observe carefully. 言 means the words, the language. 观 means to watch closely. And 摄 means color, but here it's more about the emotion, the expressions. Put together, it means observe the words and watch the expression. But deeper than that, it means noticing the truth beneath the surface. But why is this so important in Chinese culture? Famous Chinese philosopher, Confucius, he believed that respect, not rules, but respect, is what holds a society together. But in this case, respect means sensing what other needs before they even have to ask. That belief shaped my grandfather. My grandfather, he was a successful businessman in China. But he wasn't successful because he was the smartest one or because he had the loudest voice in the room. He was actually successful because he simply noticed. He knew how to 察言观摄. He noticed when conversation needed to slow down. He noticed when people felt uncomfortable. And most importantly, he noticed when silence meant more than words. And research actually confirms this. Empathy in business negotiation can increase positive outcome by up to 30%. 察言观摄 was my grandfather's skill. That was his power, and that is what he passed on to me. But again, I learned how powerful reading the room is at home with my own parents. I'm sure we all experience this when your parents come home exhausted from their day. Well, when I was little, I used to think that they were exhausted or they were mad because of me. I used to think, oh my God, did I do something wrong? But reading the room actually taught me that their exhaustion has nothing to do with me. It was more about pressure, responsibility, or just adulthood. So the next time, instead of just sitting on the couch and waiting to be told to help with the grocery bag, set the table, or take out the trash, start acting on your own. That's what I did. When my mom was cooking, then I just went out and set the table. When my parents' hands were full, I offered my help. When they looked overwhelmed, well, I just became an extra set of hands without being asked. And those small chores actually made a difference in my house. But I also learned about reading the room with my little sister. One afternoon, she made a drawing. And she wanted to show it to my parents, but they didn't notice her. They didn't have the time. But I saw her, and all she wanted was to feel seen. I simply told her that her drawing was beautiful. And her face instantly lit up. Even though it wasn't perfect, even though it only took me 5 seconds, that made her smile. Not like this. So sometimes what other needs only takes 5 seconds to give. But what I want to show you guys today is that reading the room can happen everywhere, every day. In relationships or marriages, reading the room is more about noticing the small details. Reading the room is noticing a forced smile, a long sight, or even just a new haircut. Psychologist John Gottman can predict divorce with over 90% of accuracy. Not based on what a couple say, but based from what they actually ignore. Relationships or marriages does not break in one day. They break the moment we fail to read each other. In classroom, reading the room is about noticing the student who sits alone. Not because he's too shy, but because he doesn't know how to enter a conversation. But it is also about noticing the teacher who's trying their best, but no one's listening. Awareness isn't just kindness, it is connection. And in workplaces, reading the room is what makes a leader unforgettable. A boss who says, well, you look tired today, go home early, actually wins loyalty for life. But reading the room in workplaces goes beyond leadership. It is also about noticing a coworker that is exhausted and just simply making a cup of coffee, or just stepping in even though you weren't asked, seeing people. And history shows us what happens when we fail to read the room. For example, here in France. During the French Revolution, when people were begging for food, the Queen, Marie Antoinette, was rumored to have said, "Let them eat brioche." Whether true or not, this sentence actually survived because it captures one simple truth: a leader completely disconnected from her people. Well, when we fail to read the room, we fail each other. Sometimes in small ways, but sometimes in catastrophic ones, just like Marie Antoinette that got beheaded later on. So, why is reading the room so important then? We live in a society that rewards loudness. We push people to speak more, perform more. But the loudest voice in the room is not always the wisest one. The one who notices the emotional temperature of the room, those are the people who hold the group together. Reading the room carried me across cultures. It helped me care for my family and gave me a voice when I felt invisible. But this goes beyond me. The next time you walk into any kind of a room, from a classroom, a meeting room, or just a dinner table, don't ask yourself, what should I say? But ask instead, what is already being said, but without the word? Because in a word that's louder than ever, the quietest gesture often matters the most. From a smile, a glance, a cup of coffee made at the right moment, a table set without being asked, those are the gestures that matters the most. They can sometimes change a day, change a relationship, or even sometimes change a life. Our word does not need more noise. We simply need eyes that notice, hearts that care, and hands that act without being asked. And if enough of us chooses awareness over volume, empathy over ego, connection over performance, then all together we can spark something powerful. Not a revolution of noise, but a silent one. And this is what I call the silent revolution. And it begins with all of you. Thank you.